Welcome to our first roundtable of the year. This one about how to future-proof your agency for long-term growth. I'm Amy O'Hara, and I head up new agency partnerships here at Goodway. Those of you who may not be familiar with Goodway, we are a data-driven digital marketing firm built for modern marketers. We use innovative technology to help agencies and their brands succeed. And I am joined here today by with our VP of Analytics, Scott Blessman, along with Elizabeth Zupko, who heads up she's a senior director of our client services, along with one of our very valuable partners, Karsh. So Tracy Broderick, she heads up Karsh, and for those of you who may not be familiar with them, they are a boldly independent, multidisciplined marketing, design, and technology company. They're based in Colorado, and they pride themselves on solving real-world business challenges with creative solutions that generate positive results and and value to people's lives. So to kind of walk you through what we're going to do, I kind of have a list of questions that have come up based on a lot of the conversations I'm having with some of our agency partners. But we want to hear from you as well. So there's a few different ways that you can submit questions. The first is just through the chat. That's public. Anybody on the call can see that. You can also submit privately through with the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. And then towards the end, we're kind of thinking that we'll have about 15 minutes or 10 minutes for Q&A, and so you can actually ask those live. So before we kind of get into some of those questions, I would like to start with an activity. So I think Matt's going to put a link to a Mentimeter in the chat. And what we want everyone to do is spend 1 to 2 minutes thinking through and maybe sharing what would really propel your agency to win an advertiser or brand who's a level up from maybe what you're working with today. So we want to hear from you and make sure that we're all kind of talking. See if you guys are feeling the same way that a lot of us are feeling, and that reflects some of the conversations we've been having. So we'll take a minute to do this. I'm sure Scott's getting excited about return on ad spend and reporting. That's where he lives every day. Research is definitely something that we help a lot of our partners with. More man hours. Yeah, I think we all feel that. Yep, cookieless future. Competition, hear you there.
I like how big research is getting in the center there.
Yes. Strategy, staffing. ABM, yes, those are conversations that have been happening. And I think a lot of these themes are going to probably map to some of the conversations that Easy or Elizabeth, you and I have been having with Tracy and Scott. So
yes. To everybody watching, welcome to the family. Everybody calls me Easy, so you may hear the internal Goodway folks refer to me that way.
Cool. Well, like I said, a lot of this is aligning, so that's validating. So let's kind of get into the panel. And Tracy, I think I kind of want to start with you. So, what are some of the most important things that your agency, is thinking through, or you're thinking that you need to be doing to future-proof the agency?
Well, we're definitely talking about a lot of the things that we just saw on that screen, but I think we boil it down to first and foremost that clients hire agencies to help solve their marketing challenges. So we're challenged with continually bringing them strong and new and innovative solutions and ideas to the plate. But we also must continually understand their consumers. And so what we do is, it's so important to continue to get diverse perspectives, not only from our team of all different expertises and backgrounds, but also get the good thinking from partners and challenge them to bring ideas to us as well to fill the gaps that we don't have internally. And that's where that whole partnership comes in.
Okay, I like it. Scott, do you have some thoughts here?
Yeah, I think based on the Mentimeter, a lot of you have the same thoughts I do as well about our evolving landscape and basically getting ready for the changes we're going to expect with our data and ensuring privacy is in place with cookie deprecation going away. Really, I think the best thing we can do today is make sure we know the questions that our advertisers want to answer and then work through that kind of solution that'll allow us to make sure we have the right measurement in place. We understand if ROAS is the goal, since that was so big on the Menti, ensuring that we have things in place that we know how to measure against. And maybe we're modifying, maybe we're changing what we look at, but it's really understanding what are we trying to achieve that I think is probably our best step to move forward.
Okay. And then EZ, what are some of the kind of things that, are most top of mind for, some of your partners?
Sure. I mean, I think really to just riff on Tracy and Scott both, bringing fresh ideas, something different, something new, a solution, something that propels the business forward for your partner or your advertiser, something that maybe they can't easily, quickly, or cost efficiently do for themselves, and really adding value. And the folks that are going to be investing in the tools and the resources to develop those kind of future solutions, like Scott referenced, cookie-based or cookieless future solutions, are the ones that are really setting themselves up for success.
Okay. Yeah, and another theme that I kind of hear a lot is the expectation of agencies that you're all being, tasked to do more with less. I'd be curious, Tracy, if you've seen this and what it means for your agency and maybe some of your, other agency friends in the business.
Well, I imagine probably some of our agency friends put some of the bandwidth and staffing issues up there. It's all about the manpower, and it's just there's not enough hours in the day. So it definitely is the case. And really gone are the days of the linear process where you had time and the roadmap to solve problems. So it's really about being creative with budgets, with problem solving approaches, and just tapping into different people with different ways of solving. You never know where the best idea is going to come from, and really it boils down to creativity and flexibility in how we solve these challenges.
All right. I like that. And that kind of leads to two that, I feel like in our world, clients really expect faster turnarounds on projects and deliverables than maybe ever before. And like, how can you realistically manage those expectations, but while, actually delivering quality work that's going to push things forward. So we're not checking a box, but we're providing really deep, great quality work on turn times.
Yeah. Well, I think it's definitely important. Sorry, there's some feedback there. To get things going quickly. So you're starting to move, and it may not be perfect out of the gate, but to show progress and start testing some things. Communication, collaboration, transparency with your client, we find that those make it work much better. To give you an idea, we were pretty overwhelmed, and last year we implemented an agency-wide project management tool that really was built to help keep everybody on the same page, going in the same direction, visibility, kind of a single source of truth, and also for scaling projects, it was really getting to be a necessity. We also have learned it's okay to say no, or instead of saying no, how can we find a different solution for this challenge, or are we asking the right questions? So there's different ways. It's not just jumping to an answer.
And is that, we're not plugging anyone, but is that tool that you implemented Monday.com?
Yes, it is.
It is. Okay. That's
Yes, it is. And we had an amazing team that worked tirelessly to put this together because we knew that the benefits were going to be worth it. So it was definitely a team effort throughout the agency. We're still adapting. It's a learning curve, but it's really helped streamline a lot of things.
good. Good to know. We use that too. Easy, do you want to kind of expand? I'm sure you're seeing some of this as well, right?
Sure. Well, no, we never hear this. No, I'm kidding. First of all, yes, Monday.com was an absolute game changer. And we're really leaning into, we're calling it progress over perfection. And that goes for all of that. That's for the implementation of something like a project management tool, all the way through to client deliverables. You're up against deadlines. Those deadlines become our deadlines. And we absolutely want to get you something good by that deadline. But also have those really transparent conversations like Tracy mentioned. Like if you want really great work, we talk about great work a lot internally, that might take an extra couple of days. What are the give and take that we can do to either get that to you quicker or maybe get a couple of extra days to really give you something that's maybe a little closer to perfect and less on the progress. Those types of things.
And Scott, what are you seeing on your end kind of in this category?
I think our biggest opportunity for marketers is really having, Tracy mentioned it a little bit, single source of truth, using Monday as their kind of centralized location. But even more when we think about data, we want to have a single source for reporting, for data access, and for data delivery. We want to make sure all of our teams are really looking at things the same way and using the same metrics to make decisions. This really helps to speed up some of that efficiency too, because our teams are spending less time pulling data and more time actually analyzing, creating insights, or making changes that might move the business forward.
Awesome. Okay. Well, and I kind of wanted to hop around. So a little bit, there was a Media Sense and WFA survey. I think it was published maybe back in October. That really is getting to the expectations, that agencies today, partners expect, the brands expect the agencies to have, to challenge their status quo and to deliver business outcomes. So kind of moving away from those vanity metrics that we like in marketing to actual, outcomes that matter to the C-suite. So I'm going to start with Scott here, because I bet you have lots of thoughts here.
Yeah, we touched on this a little bit earlier, is having that, what are we trying to do kind of mindset, and working with our clients, working with their business, understanding what their outcomes and desires really are of what they want their marketing to achieve for them. Once we have those goals in mind, we actually should work backwards and start thinking about what are the lower funnel metrics that indicate we're moving towards those goals, what mid funnel metrics are moving people into that decision, and then from an upper funnel, how are we informing that kind of journey or that precision that goes throughout. We're not looking at impressions anymore. The same number of eyeballs as a Super Bowl ad, it's not enough, because we're not driving conversions, we're not driving that activity, and we really need to have that kind of rooted in our goals.
I like that.
Yeah.
How about you, Tracy?
I would add
sorry.
that no, sorry. With our clients, we really have tried to start now. This is different from the old days, but start with a measurement plan and goals versus like, hey, let's start planning some media. So really starting, like Scott said, with the goals to keep those in mind. And we go down the path together with the client so that we're measuring the right KPIs from the start, because it's really tough to unravel it and, find things that you didn't decide to measure. We place less emphasis on the media efficiency KPIs and more on the business efficiency KPIs. And it really depends on the client. But, business KPIs can run the gamut from, sales or bookings or ROAS or even consumer sentiment for some of our clients. So it really is focusing in on what matters in terms of moving their business.
Okay.
I think at the risk of being a broken record here, the business outcome is so much more important, because that is what the CFO cares about. That is what the folks in the boardroom care about. So if we can kind of design our entire strategy around the business outcome, and then back into, well, you might not be able to measure an in-campaign by heads and beds because people maybe in a tourism sense travel a little bit later. But you can certainly provide advanced measurement solutions after the fact that really just tell that story. So like I said, ditto.
Awesome. Well, I don't think that we could actually have an agency roundtable without talking about the impending cookieless future. So really to succeed with audience targeting, agencies are going to really have to help their brands, navigate that third party cookieless world. But there's not a one size fits all solution, nor are there, this has not been standardized. So kind of, Scott, where would be a good place where you think that agencies, should start to help prepare for this?
Yeah, well, good way, like I'm sure many agencies are doing today, is really thinking about what do our clients need? What is it goes back to that outcome. What's that business outcome? What do we need to provide for them? And then testing a lot of the solutions in market. Google already started deprecating some of those cookies. So we know we have a pocket of audiences that we can start testing against. And a lot of our platforms and partners are looking at ways that they can mitigate some of those concerns by what we call data stacking, and basically working together with a few different kind of solutions to help fill those gaps in. Biggest piece to get started right now is your first party data, and ensuring that we have a good idea of who our customers are and what we have from an information standpoint, so that we can continue to build upon that in the future.
And kind of a follow-up question there, like, is this something that agencies should feel like they should just on one fell swoop, like we have to come up with a solution and implement this, or is there testing, and are there, are there things that, like, baby steps that we can be taking to get ourselves ready for the big change, the big switch?
Yeah, testing I think is the key. Tracy mentioned measurement plans and having measurement frameworks. A testing framework is 100% required. Working towards those kind of key questions we know. How are we targeting? How are we tracking? What are we looking at from a behavioral standpoint, along with some of the other metrics that we've available from attitudinal or market conditions, things like that. And understanding kind of how we can pull this all together to continue to tell that story without having that true kind of one-to-one linkage that we've gotten used to over the years.
Okay. All right. How are you handling this, Tracy, or what's your roadmap look like? We'll say it that way.
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, clients are asking us questions. They really sometimes don't even know what to ask. They just know that it's important. And so they're looking to us for those answers and our points of view on it. So that's where we really work closely with our partners and rely heavily on the partners who are investing in the data, the technology. They have the data scientists that we don't have. They have the Scotts of the world who are putting together a plan and have been working on this for a while. Karstenhagen recently started testing with Goodway, putting 1% of our impressions going to focus first party data efforts. And we're testing that right now. And we'll use those learnings to guide us on a particular client or expand to other clients, et cetera. So it is about testing and figuring it out. And specifically in the tourism space, to talk about other partners that we're working with, Adara is a leader in the data and analytics space in travel. And Adara Cortex is their global consortium of tokenized travel data aggregated in clean rooms. I had to watch a webinar to understand that. But what's important is, they have been leading the way, and they're still in the infancy stages, but they have a solution that they can bring their partners and their clients. So again, it's looking for partners who have done that investment and that you can test and learn and, navigate the future, because this is new for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So easy kind of beyond Karstenhagen, what are you seeing from some of your other partners?
Sure. I mean, I completely agree. Testing and a testing roadmap is the number one thing. We've seen more and more partners wanting to sign up and use their first party data. That has, sometimes been a hurdle in the past, or maybe it feels a little awkward to share your first party data, but as long as you have the right things in place legally on your side, we should be able to use it and leverage it. On the back end of almost all of our campaigns, We're using the Goodway Passport One product, which is, just Scott alluded to it and mentioned it. That is cookieless behavioral segments. So kind of that number one concern that we're hearing from advertisers around how am I going to find my audience? I actually think we're in a really good spot targeting wise. We have a lot of solutions. We're hearing from our data partners that they're really leaning into finding different ways to find those people based on other things other than just their kind of cookied online behavior.
Well, good. And then I think that another topic that this would not be a legitimate agency roundtable or anything in the digital realm would be if we didn't talk about AI. So a lot of, I think that brands are also expecting their agencies to kind of bring these solutions to the table, or at least, you know, kind of going back to this survey that I referenced earlier. That was one of the things that came up, and that so kind of how should we be anticipating, like, what are the capabilities or future needs with data automation and AI? Like how are we all tackling that, or should we be tackling that? Let's start with Scott on that one.
Yeah, I mean, really, like AI is something we've been dipping our toes into for, you know, a number of years. Some of the algorithms and things we've done around bid structures and the way we monitor our campaigns could fit into that AI bucket. We just call it machine learning. So a lot of what we're doing today fits there. But what's interesting is, as we talk about the cookieless future, a lot of folks are bringing to the table, well, we can use AI to make these connections for us, or to help us understand the tracking impact. But one thing I think we really need to remember is that AI is still resulting and responding to what it's being fed. So we need to ensure we're giving it good data, very clear objectives, and a very clear understanding of kind of what needs to be understood within that data set. We've run tests as recent as about 3 months ago where the AI that we were testing actually hallucinated. We said we want to know how our performance looked, and in order to answer the question, it made up its own data to kind of get around where there were gaps. And if I had an analyst making up data, I mean, we definitely would have to have a conversation. So I think in terms of the AI piece, you know, we still need to remember that all these data connections and those identifiers and the pieces that are linking the data still need to be there. It's not going to be able to jump through all those hoops without having some kind of thread to follow. So as we go back to kind of thinking about outcomes, is we really need to focus on the questions and understanding, are we asking it the right question in order to get the right answer? That's where we're going to start seeing a lot of this expertise coming through, is people being able to communicate with the platform in a way that really is in service to all of our brands.
And then Tracy, have you, you know, at Carthagen, you know, are there specific categories where you've kind of started, you know, testing or dipping your toe in the water here?
Yeah, we've formed an AI task force and we're building it out right now. And with us, it doesn't just apply to the data, but also obviously writing and creative design and all of the things in the creative space as well, from, you know, voiceover talent in spots to, you know, I mean, it gets pretty messy pretty quickly. So we've tried to bite off, you know, what makes sense and how do we build out different teams. But as Scott said, it boils down to what types of goals do we have for AI to solve for us? You know, we don't want to just set people free to use ChatGPT on their own. You know, what does it mean for the agency? How do we market it to clients? What's the value? You know, how do we protect our IP? All of those things. So there's a lot to bite off, but we're trying to start with baby steps and maybe this year solve 3 big, you know, what are 3 big goals we have for AI and how can that help us? And then we're bringing in the passionate people on our staff that can, you know, really dive in and make some sense of it and experiment. Again, it's all the testing, but within guardrails, I guess, because AI can be a little scary.
And then Easy, have your account teams, have they kind of started experimenting with AI or?
A little bit, I'll be honest. I think we're still rooted, as Scott said, you know, we still lean into our algos and our machine learnings, and that's, you know, kind of the precursor to AI. Started doing some research, like more research based, asking a ChatGPT a question and seeing what kind of information is out there. What has it already been fed, and but still leaning into all of that expertise that we have on our team. Like, we're not just copying and pasting back into anything. So I'd say, yeah, definitely a dipping the toe into the pond, not jumping in.
Good. Okay, and then kind of last thing that came up in this survey, that's another kind of item I feel like that these are conversations I'm continuously engaged in, is that those brands, when they're selecting their agency, they really expect, they want to find an agency that has the best talented out there. But I think that we all know that it's sometimes difficult to find and maintain to keep, talented employees. So Tracy, what have you been doing at your agency to kind of, grow that in-house team and make sure that they're staying in place?
Well, we face massive challenges in this area. Am I have feedback? Sorry.
Yeah, it was something, I don't know that it's specifically you, but a little bit.
No, we faced massive challenges during COVID and we learned a lot. But since then, we have really brought in some extraordinary talent. But those talented people really want clear paths and growth opportunities. That's where some of the AI opportunities can come to pass. If people are passionate about it, how can we set them free to really develop that, if that's their passion? And also post-pandemic, we found that sometimes job descriptions don't always cut it. For one example, we reimagined how to service a client's social business needs by building a mini social agency within the agency. Now, that doesn't sound revolutionary. However, in the past, we were trying to build out a social department. And what we found is that we were struggling with that. So we actually took a team of strategically combined social experts from our media team, our account service team, our creative team, put them together to help them, create and have the same goals. And it's been working beautifully. So I think it's sometimes rethinking the way you're doing things to kind of get over that hurdle and meet the challenges of the future.
Love it. Love it. Easy. So let's pose the question to you. It can either be like you running your teams or your agency partners, or both.
Yeah, a little bit of both.
An interesting perspective.
Yeah, I think Tracy is completely correct. You have to, when you're the one managing the folks, you've got to give them a future, a path, an opportunity. But I think as an organization, you also have to talk the talk and walk the walk a little bit, because you can say up front in your hiring process that, oh, we want you to move forward. You get all of this development, but is it actually built into their day that they have the time and resources to actually go do this? So I think that's really important when you're the manager, is creating the space that allows for that growth to happen. And then as an agency leader that's maybe trying to tackle this, as Tracy said, get creative. Have those really tough conversations about, what do you do in-house? How do you find a partner? What do you look for in a partner? And can you outsource it? Can you get a freelance person? I think those are the conversations we've had too, of gone are the days where the gut is to, oh, well, there's a gap. Let's just go hire for this person. And now we're really truly thinking about, what is the business need and how can we solve for it? And maybe something that's a non-traditional solution.
Yeah, I know that a lot of the conversations that I have, it's really like, if you could take X, Y, and Z off of your plate on a daily basis, what are those things that if we're off your team's plates, like those admin tasks that would allow them to think more strategically about the client's business on a daily basis and getting some of that off.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
how about you, Scott?
Yeah, well, I mean, as data continues to kind of move to the front of a lot of conversations, I think you're probably seeing that with clients, with agencies, with everyone. We have to be rooted in that kind of outcome, or the what do we know and what do we do with it kind of standpoint. Knowing that has continued to grow, I actually went through a pretty big exercise about 6 months ago, so when we started it, working with my team to kind of clearly map out the day-to-day, what your role looks like, and the areas and expertise you need to have at each level of your function, which then clearly mapped out kind of that growth path for everyone. So we're all looking at a similar plan. we're all looking at things in the same way, and we understand, kind of here's the foundation, here's the strategic growth, and then here's kind of the expectation as you move forward. That has then fed into our hiring practices, where we're able to kind of look for what we call the unicorns sometimes, because we know within those pillars of expertise kind of where we have the gaps and where we have the opportunity to really kind of level up the entire team, not just leveling up one person.
Well, and this kind of leads me to something else. Is it's like an agency can't be everything to everyone, right? And so that a lot of times will force you to verticalize, right? To get that expertise to go out and be able to win and retain that business. But on the flip side of that, it's a delicate balance, because you can't just be deep in one or two categories. You have to diversify your roster and your business. So how do you deal with that, Tracy?
Yeah, well, I think we tend to be client pleasers, and we want to solve everybody's problems, and we get into that danger of trying to be all things to all people. And we know, I think we've learned in this world that just doesn't work. You have to stand for something. You have to focus a little bit better. So it doesn't have to be just category specific, is what we've learned. We assemble teams in, with the different areas of expertise and experience, and then put them on the clients that they're passionate about. We have started calling it, instead of an agency of record, a team of record. So how can we recombine the different people within the agency if we get a new client or we have a new project, to get them to work together and bring their expertise to the table? Because that's what clients are looking for. And it can be more effective if you can kind of build the teams that make the most sense within. Of course, we rely on partners if we do need help, or occasionally freelancers, et cetera. But looking within and kind of recombining a little bit.
Easy.
Love that. Yeah, a team of record. I like that.
I didn't coin that. I'll give credit to someone else later, but yeah, we love it and we've adopted it.
Yeah, I will be borrowing that. I think it is a balance, and I like to think of it as this goes for both the people on your team, your talent, as well as your kind of book of business, but you've got to have a balance between things that are a mile wide and an inch deep. So those are kind of going to be like your generalists. I'm an account services person, guys. I am a generalist. I know a lot of stuff, but I don't know a whole lot, like a depth on a lot of stuff. Which is where the experts on the team come in, like our media team, where their expertise is a inch wide and a mile deep. They're kind of more narrowly focused and have just an incredible amount of expertise. But I think that goes for your verticalization too. You could go and pitch almost any vertical, but could you really truly do it really well? And I think that's, Tracy, what you were alluding to, is when you have partners, when you have additional resources, when you can pull teams together from multiple disciplines, you can actually go and win your business. We kind of started at the top of the webinar. What would propel you to win something that maybe you couldn't win before? And it's really designing your team and your structure around being able to have that breadth and depth of experience.
And so, Tracy, you said something interesting in terms of identifying what we can do really well, and then like going in and like filling the gaps with a partner or a contractor or someone like that. How do you pick those partners? Like, how do you vet those partners and decide who's for you? Because I feel like that could be a really long process that would require several hours.
Yeah, definitely. We could probably talk about it for several hours. No, I think we're pretty picky, but we have found partners, and now more than ever, I think we've been discussing on this call, it's so important to have partners. I would say we look for partners that have similar philosophies on how to service our clients, because that's what we focus on. That's why we're in business. So we want partners who will push us and bring us the best in class ideas and solutions. We also want partners who are comfortable with us pushing them and challenging them, because our clients are challenging us. So it's kind of that, understanding. And most importantly, we want partners where we can build trust, because that's where, where we win together. They have to have skin in the game. They have to be invested in growing not only the agency's business, but also our client's business. They have to be that as invested as we are, basically. So we're pretty stringent on our partners. But once we find one that works, we can depend on them, and then we can fill in the gaps with other ones as we need. But yeah, that's how we go about it.
And then Scott, I know you sit smack dab in the middle of this a good way. So what are your thoughts?
Well, when we think about agency partners that we want to work with, I think Tracy did a good job of saying, like, we want that challenge. We want people who are going to push our thinking and push us to kind of jump outside of the box. Data and analytics gets a little bit of this kind of, it's just math, or you just do a reporting. And that's not the case. We do strategy. We need to be able to have applied learnings. We need to understand the data and understand what do we make from a decision standpoint with that data. So really, I think the way we build that trust together is to be good partners and just kind of be straightforward with each other. And it's not hiding things. It's not just focusing on the things that look good. It's showing where the problems are and identifying them and say, what can we do together to move forward? What we do then when we're looking for partners, so we're looking for, maybe a solution system or a data visualization platform or something that's helping us be smarter about those decisions. We want to have that one that fills the gap. And I brought that up about hiring. It's really help us understand kind of where are we deficient? Where could we use some expertise? Where could we use some kind of hands-on experience that'll immediately come in and help us level up so that we can continue to grow that trust with our agency partners?
And then Easy, I feel like there's multiple applications for you on this one too. So where do you want to dig in?
I mean, I really just kind of want to riff on Tracy's answer. The industry is incredibly fractured. There are so many people in this space. There's so many options that you have as a decision maker, that it can be incredibly overwhelming to decide on which partner is the right one for you. I think that you got to go back to culture. Who is the person that I can build trust and transparency with, the person or the company, trust and transparency, that we have shared business goals, that we have like cultures, that we both have growth mindsets, that we have some of those commonalities from which we can really build and motivate one another. I kind of think back to the time where we were first starting our conversations with Cartagen and sat around the conference room that Tracy's in right now and just had this very kind of we've been friends forever conversation, what felt like, and everything that we discussed about our businesses and our history and kind of our path forward and our own goals within our separate companies, we just kept saying, oh, wow, yeah, no, us too. Yeah, we're doing that too. Or like, yes, we're on that same path. And I hate using a buzzy word, but there was a lot of synergy in starting that out. And I think that's really made all of the difference in how we've been able to partner together.
Awesome. Well, kind of my last question before we put it out to our attendees is, I think we're living in a reality where, Tracy, other agencies are knocking on your clients' doors on a daily basis. So like, how do we're constantly struggling with like, how do we stay ahead of the curve? How do we stay sticky? What types of conversations like should be, we be driving? What kinds of insights are you delivering? What just kind of, I know I threw like 4 or 5 things at you there, but what are kind of some specifics kind of like within this genre or philosophies that you're adhering to there at the agency?
Yeah. Do you want me to start?
Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll throw it over to Easy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have to keep our ear to the ground, and believe me, there's a lot of ground to cover, but in different ways. So always applying news and trends and things that are current, because things change so quickly. I mentioned the importance of understanding consumers and their value, and I think that is really one area where we can really shine, because it's all about connecting with that consumer and driving the ROI in the end. I was going to give one example that's pretty fresh that we're re-upping this year, but last year for a large travel client, we worked with a consulting partner who is a first-gen Latina, who is an author, filmmaker, just a global speaker. And she's our consulting partner, but she really brought some new nuances and perspective about the Latina traveler audience that we really hadn't thought about before. And, you know, we had been translating Spanish ads, English ads to Spanish, but we really took a deep look into this audience and how we could motivate them. And so it really changed the way we advertise to them from a messaging standpoint. But it also helped us to strive to find media partners that could use some first-party data as well as contextually relevant programming to really hit this target. And we did see it drive higher ROI than we had seen in previous years. So again, sometimes it's those little tweaks and re-examining audiences or campaigns that maybe you need to take a closer look at now that there is data and you can get deeper into what matters.
And Easy, is this something that your team helped Tracy's team with?
Not that particular one, but we certainly have several things that we've been able to partner on. I'm thinking of another travel partner. You know, I think there's, again, so many players in the space, and you get a beautifully written RFP, and it talks about how we want to reach the person that's going to book travel. That is a very broad audience. So being able to dive into the data and go beyond, well, this person has purchased a plane ticket in the past, to what would motivate this individual to specifically book travel to the destination, to the advertiser, and really speaking to and targeting them based on their interests and their goals and things like that, kind of going way beyond in your audience design to really set the campaign up for success. So we've been doing a lot of work in that space. And then going back to the beginning of the webinar, tying it back to business outcomes. What is the, you know, for a tourism client, heads and beds, going beyond kind of those vanity metrics and really bringing together a strategy that is unique, well thought through. We will have consulted Scott and his team on our measurement strategy before it gets put in front of a client, so that we're delivering something that is truly unique and that another partner maybe wouldn't have come up with. That's kind of our goal in delivering our strategies.
Okay. And then Scott, I'm going to throw it over to you. And I think there's a couple of ways to look at this, right? Like, how are you solving for this? And how should agencies, like, how should they be thinking about this? So you can take either path, or you can respond to both.
I think I'll probably respond to both here, but the way we really need to think about, I think Easy called out understanding the audience, understanding the business. Tracy called out kind of specifically understanding who and how to talk to those people. And to me, I really kind of go back and think, you know, travel's not selling hammers. You know, if you don't sell a hammer today, it's still available tomorrow. If we don't sell a room today, those expire. There's only a set number and there'll only be that many. So it's understanding the client vertical, understanding their space, understanding where to look at that data, coming together with Easy's team, with our agency partner teams, and helping them understand kind of what is happening, what is the story, and then calling out, you know, I called out earlier, not hiding the negatives. Let's look for those opportunities. That's what I like to call them, opportunities, ways that we can go out and learn more. We could research more. We could understand, okay, why is this? Why didn't it work the way we did? Were we hitting the wrong people? Was it the wrong message? Are we too far out? You know, we've got a lot of key questions that we should be asking ourselves whenever we find one of those opportunities. But moving to the other side of it, I think the key here is having a true partnership. And it's, Tracy said, having skin in the game, but making sure we both have the same objective, making sure that we are working together so it's a seamless mix. I always say the mark of a good team leader is the team gets the work done, whether the leader's there or not. So I want agency partners to know that we're getting that work done and we're doing that due diligence to understand why things are happening and what we do going forward. That is not something that they have to push us on every time. They have to tell us, I need you to go do that. It's pulling those pieces all together to ensure we have that same kind of playbook or story that we're working on.
Nice. Well, I think that we're going to start heading some of the questions that are coming up in the chat. I'm going to hop around a little bit so we can give Scott a breather here. One of the questions is, which he will have an answer to as well, but I want to look at it through a different lens. So what key questions can you ask to uncover what your clients really care about? So whether during the RFP process or immediately after you've won the business, like how can we save time and get to what really matters quicker so we can do better work?
I have a fun question that I tend to ask in this situation. And it's, what could we deliver? What business outcome could we deliver that would make your CFO say yes to incremental spend? Like what is such a big win that it's a no-brainer to have, to have more budget? And I think when you kind of root it in that business outcome, you can kind of tailor the conversation from there.
Oh, that's good. And this may sound cliche, but what does success look like? And you can ask different people on the client team. You want to make sure the CEO or the ultimate decision maker is also answering that question. And I'm thinking of in new business pitches, it really is important for them to answer and to continue to dig a little deeper, because the first answer is probably not as deep as you need to go. It's also, I think, identifying the target audience, like who is really the target audience, because that can totally change and shift, how we go about solving their problems. So I think getting to some of the basics is just really key. And oftentimes it's hard to dig it out.
We do a thing after we won the business. We do it. We kind of kick it off during our pitch process, but it's really getting down to what do you need to see, and it's understanding kind of the client's needs. And we keep saying outcomes, but like, where are we going with this? What are we driving? And then how do we get the metrics that show we're moving in that direction? But my favorite question to ask people is, what does your boss ask you for the most? And then be able to go back and build a dashboard or a one sheet that they can log in quickly and easily, download a copy of, be able to walk into that meeting with very little notice and actually be able to present that to their boss. If your relationship's really good with that client, sometimes you might want to ask, what do you get bonused on? Because we know where the ultimate goal within the business is and how they consider value and they consider investment. And we want to make sure that our work is driving that success at every stop along the way.
And then good. Another one of the questions that came through are, what are the biggest outcomes and goals that you find your clients want for both B2B and B2C audiences? Like, what metrics matter to them the most? Well, let's answer that question. But then if that's not the real answer, sometimes the client asks the wrong question, what should the real answer be? So who wants to tackle that one first?
I vote for easy.
Oh, I feel like as agency partners, we probably have all gotten the RFP that says this is an awareness campaign that we need sales on. So that is a prime example of what are we really trying to accomplish, because if I give you awareness channels, you might not get a ton of sales. And if I give you a bunch of sales channels, you might not get the awareness that you're looking for. So definitely defining what success looks like and what the outcome is. That's a very beautiful question, but it's really broad. And I think it's wildly industry specific, but also growth stage specific. Somebody that's in the mature side of their business wants something very different than a startup, even in the same vertical. So I think that's where we have those kind of one-off conversations, and we truly tailor our strategy to what really matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we, I think it definitely is category specific. It ranges all over the place. We actually work with a lot of clients that are in the service industry or that do not have direct control of what we're trying to measure. So if you're a destination, you may not be able to, you're not the hotel, you don't control the prices or the product or many other things. Or if you're a hospital or a healthcare system, you don't have control over everything. So I think there's a lot of diagnostics that we can use on the front end when we're building these campaigns and when we're looking at dashboards that we've set up according to the goals. But then down the road, we also have to make sure that ladders up to the ultimate goal, which may not come for a few months or 6 months. So it's a balancing act, and sometimes it's a challenge, but we have to set it up on the front end and the back end so that they can talk to each other.
Both Tracy and Easy kind of touched on something that is near and dear to my heart, which is we can't have a cost per acquisition goal for an awareness campaign. We just can't. It's too broad, and it's not the right question, and we're not working about it in the right way. We don't have a way to ensure that we're laddering everything back because there's steps that we're missing in that process. Now, whether we're the agency of just one specific channel or we're working across multiple channels for the client, we approach this the same way. And it's understanding kind of what are the down funnel relationships that help us understand what's happening in that upper funnel space. So for a lot of our B2B and B2C clients, the ROAS always is kind of the king when it comes to like that long-term goal. But what we really want to demonstrate is the relationship that's taking place. And I think that's the question we're shifting a lot of our clients to is, how does this work together to drive your business overall? We're not looking at attribution. We're not looking at attributed sales. We may not even be looking at the conversion path that takes place. What we want to understand is our awareness campaign helping to drive search impressions? Are we helping to drive people demonstrating interest, demonstrating the desire to go to your learn more section of your website and actually engage with the brand on their own so that we're actually driving intent and letting those lower funnel channels do the capturing of that intent? That's the big shift I think that's taking place because everybody wants to say, I gave you $1, show me how much you gave me back. And we need to change that thinking. With cookies going away, we're going to lose a lot of that visibility. And it's understanding these relationships that's really going to help us stay afloat and be nimble in these times of kind of uncertainty around what is the true solution for where we track going forward.
Speaking of dollars and cents, one of our next questions is, how have you approached increasing your prices with clients that you've had, 2+ years? Again, the whole where you're expected to do more with less, but you're a for-profit company. How are you handling that, Tracy?
Yeah, well, the word inflation in the news has helped a little bit in recent years, I would say, because everyone is in that same battle. But hopefully you have a good relationship with the client, and you have hard conversations, but they're difficult conversations. It is, I mean, the fact is, it's harder to adjust some of those longstanding clients because they've kind of gotten used to where they are. So I think it's about showing more value. What additional value can you bring to build into the scope that you're doing that will want them to say, oh, yes, absolutely, I should be paying more for this. So I maybe it's just reframing what you're giving them. Or you have to inch it up, if they're really into hourly rates, which we try not to focus on, we try to really focus on the value and the deliverables. But if they are into that, help guide them along, educate them, inch them along, and be respectful because they're under pressures as well. But yeah, you do have to get paid, and you have to have, we're a business first and an agency second. We tell our clients that all the time. So, how do we work together to make it palatable for both of us?
How about you, Easy?
Very
I
similar.
imagine, I know from experience that this is a world we live in as well.
This is a world we live in, but very similar. I think it goes back to your partnership and being honest and transparent and saying, the cost of doing business today is not the same cost as it was 1, 2, 3, 5 years ago. And that's true for everybody. That's not just true for Karsh or for Goodway. It's true for everybody. So I think when you have that partnership and you can have that honest and transparent conversation, there's a lot of respect that can be gained and kind of mutually beneficial solutions that you can come together on.
Well, and does that sometimes like consist of going back and like just sometimes just completely rescoping, right?
Oh,
It's like this was your
absolutely.
need state 2 years ago.
Yep.
You don't necessarily
Yes.
need that. What can it be swapped out
Yes.
with? Is that okay?
Yes.
Yes, you can
Yeah.
take
I
things
mean,
away or you know, readjust what you're delivering if it's not going to work for the agency or the client anymore.
yeah. I think you go back to the deliverables. What you needed 2 years ago is probably different than what you need today. But hey, we're still doing that 20 slide PowerPoint deck that you haven't looked at the last 4 months that we've sent it. Like
Yeah.
if I take those hours back, I can give you something different. And just like I said, having the conversation. I think sometimes we build the story in our head and assume some outcomes that maybe are negative, but thankfully we have had great partners and great conversations and almost always have been able to move forward in a very positive light.
Well, we're close here. Time is flying really fast. It's been a fun
Amy, you did
conversation.
such a good job.
So let's close things down. And then again, anybody that we did not get to your questions, we will come together as a group and provide a response to you. But just to kind of close out, based on the topics we touched on, and honestly, I think we had a lot of things in an hour, and we probably didn't get to go as deep as we could have on a lot of these. But walking away from kind of the topics and the questions that were submitted, Tracy, what's kind of your number one thing if you're hopping into a meeting this afternoon that you're like, I was just on this webinar and this is something that's top of mind, like how do we get this on the list and we start working on it? What would that be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's reframing sometimes the question or thinking about how we can tap into some partners. Don't feel like you need to do it all alone. There are ways to help get answers for clients, to bring innovative ideas and just keep pushing, but it doesn't have to be all alone. So think about how you can bring in your team, whether it's internal or external, to help solve a problem in a new way, because that's what clients are looking for.
Awesome. Scott, easy.
For me, I think it's just knowing we kind of are all asking the same questions. It's a lot of how do we get ready for the future? How are we working together? And I think we're approaching those concerns in a very similar way, which is good for the industry, bad for competition maybe, but the overall kind of goals of how we approach these problems is kind of the key piece to me. We're all talking about that same solving the business need, and it's not about just being splashy anymore. It's not about just winning awards. It's really how do we help our clients hit that need?
Those are yes. And then I'll go a little bit maybe more tactical in my answer, but I am definitely remotivated to return to the cookieless future conversations. I think what we're seeing from some of our partners is like that's a future problem and not a today problem. But it's a today problem because the future is tomorrow. It's it's going to happen very quickly, and we don't want to be caught unawares. So I think revisiting those conversations and remotivating not just myself but my partners to have those conversations is going to be moving up my to-do list.
Awesome. Well, I think we'll close things out. Thank you, Tracy, Scott, and AZ for joining me today. And thank you to all of our attendees. We will actually send this recording out. So if there's something that you want to revisit, or there was there's someone on the team that you think could benefit, you can share that along. But we appreciate you joining us for this fun conversation and look forward to doing more of these with you in the future.
Awesome,
Thank
great.
you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.